All right, it's
Hold on. Is that changed?
meeting to order. Mitch, roll call, please.
Elthon.
Here.
Dr. Nystrom.
Here.
Dr. Melhouse. Here. Stephen.
Here.
Richard.
Here. Recognition of visitors. Are we doing?
Yes, so we have some of our new staff present this evening, and I think you can stay where you are if you stand, because our cameras are pointed way in the back anyway. Our principals will introduce the new staff that are with their buildings so that you can be introduced to some of the people you've already approved to be part of our staff.
I can start. So first we have Amy Bozzard, who's our shared MOC with Ogden.
I would prefer to go by bot.
Yeah.
Just in case somebody did an email for me that says bot on it, it's not a trick.
And then the second one we have today is Sandy Teasley. Sandy has been with us, but it's just started on as iDrag specialist, and we're really happy to have them both.
Okay, and Lincoln Rockstone is up next. We have Justine, who is going to be serving as our mental Chris. I'm gonna make sure I say that right. She's been with us for a while, but she's new to this role and really serving our kiddos. Tiffany Carpenter, back. Boone is best. We love it here. Back as a teacher for her first year at first grade at Cage. And Amanda Jefferson, also back. This is a fun trip. See, it really be lovely here. We 100% do. But we still heard from Heartland, and she will be our school social worker morning meeting and supporting kids. So welcome to the Lincoln team.
Thank you.
And from Franklin, we have Amy Goodpasser. She's our new Title I teacher. She's student taught with us a few years ago, and she's back. All right.
Yeah.
This is great. Welcome, Amy.
Awesome. So do we get everyone that's here tonight that's new staff? So first of all, we just want to say thank you for taking time out of your very valuable evening to come and introduce yourselves to the board and to our community that is watching online, because we really want you to know that you are part of our family and we're happy that you're here. So just know that we know it was a sacrifice to take the time out to do that tonight. So thank you so much for doing that. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Good, I would love it. Guys, no kidding.
I get the tradition back started here.
I know. We used to do it every time.
Yeah.
I know, I agree. It needs to be back going.
Today's the day it starts. Yeah.
That's right.
So you're certainly welcome to stay the whole time, but you can also leave. So you don't need to stay unless you really enjoy board meetings. So up to you.
We're not board meetings.
No, it's fun.
Consideration of the agenda. Any changes, Julie or Mitch?
No.
Move to approve the agenda as printed.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Hearing and delegations. Is there anybody here that'd like to address the board? Okay, on to routine business. I'll hand this one over to Pat.
Okay, we're on to the consent agenda. Are there any questions regarding the consent agenda? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. We'll do a roll call vote on this.
Elthon.
Yes.
Dr. Nystrom.
Yes.
Dr. Melhouse.
Yes.
Stephen.
Yes,
Richard abstain.
Staying up.
I'll turn this back over to Jeremy.
So are we on to edge construction?
Mhm. Yeah, so we have a representative from Edge Construction here this evening to just share with you kind of where we are currently with our gym project, the items. Just so that you know, Branson, I have shared with the board kind of the list of items that we're trying to work through. So feel free to share whatever you'd like to share. And then if they have questions, we'll give them that opportunity.
Yeah, I'm guessing I double up on a lot of that. I'm guessing most of you have seen the gym.
We're through a lot of it. Obviously, you guys are using it. There's two aspects that we've had trouble procuring and getting on time. The acoustic wall panels are still, we're working through approval still. We've got the design all approved. We're just waiting on confirmation on colors. With this project, we had 3 different manufacturers that are all having to get the design kind of coordinated and approved and colors all matched. Now that was problematic for the manufacturers to be able to achieve. Obviously, they're not here yet. We're hoping to have the acoustic wall panels done over Christmas break, just because the amount of time it takes to install. We don't want to interfere with your school schedule, your activity schedules. You guys are obviously quite busy in there. So that's the plan we have as of now. And the other one is the wall pads, which we are hoping to get revised colors later this week. And then those can easily get installed at night or weekends prior to basketball starting. I know this has been frustrating, and I wanted to be here to kind of apologize for that frustration. We've obviously done some painting. I'm guessing you guys have seen, kind of finalize the design until the acoustic wall panels show up, just to kind of give you that sense of completion before we're actually complete while you're still using the space. So we wanted to express our frustration and apologize for that. And hopefully you guys are still enjoying the gym and excited about having it.
Yeah, I see several things on the list you discussed. The center divider curtain
Yep, that's being installed right now, actually.
right now.
Yep, they'll be done later today.
Okay, great. And the painting,
The painting is that design that we decided to paint once we knew the acoustic wall panels are up. So it's mostly done. There's some detail work they're going to come back and do on nights and weekends, just around your volleyball schedule.
Has Tenfold issued a punch list yet, or have they?
No, we've done kind of, we've reviewed stuff and corrected items that have been pressing to the school that you guys have brought to our attention, or at least have them scheduled to be completed, but we haven't done a punch list yet because we haven't technically achieved substantial completion.
What's the criteria for substantial completion? The panels, or, I mean?
Yeah, it would be completion of your contracted work. So until those are installed, we wouldn't be substantially complete.
Okay.
But if there's something pressing for the school, obviously they've been bringing it to our attention, we'll get them addressed. But no, we haven't done a formal punch list yet.
Will there be some work on the floor over Christmas break too?
The work on the floor that we reviewed is going to be done in between volleyball and basketball season.
Okay.
Well, end of October, beginning of November, I think was what it was.
So outside of the panels, will there be any more heavy equipment on the floor, or is that work pretty much wrapped up?
We're going to be replacing the posts on the basketball hoops because they came back more orange than red. And that's also going to be done during that off season.
And then the painter that has to do the design also needs to have a lift to be able to get up to the. So that's also going to be on the gym until that's done.
will that hurt the floor with that heavy equipment?
We have protection that we put down under the lift. In fact, if you stop by with the people that are doing the curtains right now, it's a thin piece of masonite and then plywood, and then the lift drives over top of that.
How'd we come out budget wise on the project overall?
School budget, I'm not familiar.
I mean, like,
Change order wise to you guys, there was, I don't know the total, maybe 20,000 in changes were made.
So,
It's in here.
yeah, I was gonna see.
But I don't know what you guys are carrying for budgets.
You got it up there, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
19,000.
that is a percentage of the project total, Mitch.
Testing the math here.
About 1%.
Yeah, 1%.
One.
Yeah.
So you guys did really good. there, change order wise.
Very close.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty clean job. Outside of the manufacturers that we just couldn't procure the stuff from. Once, I think we gave them the design end of April, and they told us they would be able to meet the completion date of mid-August. We even used the basis of design, so we used the manufacturers and the dealers that were working with Tenfold during the design. And that gave us the most confidence that it would get done. We were told it would get done, and the manufacturers just, they didn't get done, whether it was procurement for materials, just bad workmanship on their part. But cost-wise, it was fairly clean.
We changed vendors on the mats too, didn't we, to get the color?
And mats, yes. And again, we used the basis of design that Tenfold had been working with, I don't know how long, and
We did have to switch vendors, which
yep.
did prolong some of that as well.
I do have a question here. Like things have been delayed a little bit. Every time I'd come to a board meeting this summer, it seemed like, boy, I was expecting to see a little bit more progress. And I haven't heard a reason why yet the center divider curtain, which is being installed now, wasn't installed before August 23rd, which was the original date. And then I understand that Mr. Green was here for a couple hours on Labor Day, expecting there would be installers here, and no one called him to tell him they weren't coming. Then I look down here at the bottom and it says here that door hardware problems, and we're turning that over to Mr. Green to get the door hardware. I'm kind of wondering about that too. I thought that would be a contractor's issue and it should have been taken care of a while ago. So could you please respond to those?
Yep, the curtain, the divider curtain was put on back order once we placed the order. I don't know the date of when we ordered it. We were originally given a delivery date of beginning of August. And just with material procurement delay, that got put on back order. Second one was, yes, we had a contractor that was scheduled to be here on Labor Day. We had given them access to the building. I didn't know Brian was here to let them in. We'd given them a pass to get access in. So that's why I guess we never called. That was just poor communication. Door hardware we're talking about the cylinders for the doors. We are just looking for direction on how to key those. We're still procuring them and installing them. We just need to know how they get keyed.
So Brian, do you want to speak to that too?
Yeah, so I met with Wall Stores this morning. Video conference and took care of all that. So basically everything that Ed was telling them is exactly what I told them, but they wanted to hear from the owner. So I'm not sure where the issue came from, but it's taken care of. They said should have all the equipment in 2 weeks or so. So that should be an issue.
Thank you, Brian.
Other questions from board members?
The flooring, how much redoing are they gonna have to do there? And is that gonna count toward our, the first time you sand the flooring down? Because I was noticing, having walked in with the volleyball coach and she was pointing out that we had some lines that were not painted on there appropriately. The first time we're gonna have to take that down and paint the lines on. How much is that gonna hurt us long term? Because you can only sand the hardwood so many times.
So they're not going to be sanding the hardwood floor. They're going to be sanding down the top coat. So they can put the paint and then they'll reseal it. So no, it won't hurt your longevity. It'll just be that top coat of finish you put on.
My understanding is that we aren't necessarily adding new lines. I think that there were some lines that had been nicked or whatever that they might correct. But my understanding, Brett, is that we aren't adding lines.
I think you're talking about the secondary courts. There's just the little
Oh, just the
corners.
yeah, just those.
They almost match the finish of the floor.
Okay,
Finisher didn't.
They didn't forgot to put those in initially, but then
okay,
them started.
yeah,
So they're there. They're leads, they're not full lines.
Right.
They're there if we need to
Mhm. Yeah.
Other questions? Anything else from Edge?
Nope, we're good. Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Nate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, number 2, ISASP review.
Dr. James is here to present on that.
This is one that we give it in spring and we get the results after those in August when these kids have left the grade level they were in. So students take or took ISASP last end of April, beginning of May, and our official results with state comparisons and our district-wide comparisons came in August, kind of right around back to school time. So we've compiled the data here to kind of show our students and their performance compared to state. And this is the third time we've given it. So we try to look across years for trends. The 3 years across 4 years have been an interesting one. So I would say trends are what they are, right? I don't know that we really can make a lot of guesses at what those trends are, but still we look to see, are there places where we that stand out to us, grade levels that maybe aren't making growth or aren't making as fast a growth as we would like to see. And this year I put in, we're trying to put more emphasis on looking at all students and thinking about different subgroups of our kids. And so those might be places to grow or places to celebrate where we're really serving certain student populations well. So I included that data for you too. It's a lot on one chart. As I was putting it together, I thought there might be a better way to do this, but once you're kind of all in on how you're putting your data together, it is what it is. So I've got a chart for ELA, which is the reading and the writing test. Teachers really like to dig in and kind of separate that out to say, is it reading that my kids may need more support, or is it writing? But really literacy is truly combined. We read and we write together. So the test does measure both, and literacy and ELA is on one. And then the next page is math. And the third page is science, which we only test at 3 grade levels. So it's really hard to see trends in that one. Some things to know, I highlighted in yellow the places where our kids performed above the state average. So you can see we have more yellow in this year than previous years. So again, I feel like that's a celebration piece for us. There are some grade levels that stand out that haven't reached that, or they're not performing where other kids across the state are. And those for us oftentimes are in our transition years. We have talked a lot in the last year and continue to talk about how we can be better at tightening up what we do across our system as a system, because our kids, and when we work really hard to define how are we going to improve at a building level or a grade level, but when our kids go through our system, sometimes those supports aren't necessarily aligned for us. And I think we see it the most in our data when we watch kids move from Franklin to the middle school or from the middle school to the high school. And those are the places that often are take that dip below the state's performance level. And there are grade levels that across the state, I would say all educators are not necessarily pleased with. We'd like to see a higher percentage of our kids meeting the proficient mark on those assessments. So for what it's worth, ELA is the first one that you see. We've made some good gains in that one and still have some places to grow. I'll let you scroll so we can look at math. Math has a little more room for growth. We have really dug in the last year and a half into some math practices as a system, working with Annie Carpenter from the AEA, former Boone teacher who we all love and respect, to try to align, again, our math practices and our approaches to math and numeracy throughout the system, but those things take time. So lots of time and lots of support for our teachers invested in that. And we hope to see that continue to show the growth with our students in our system. And then science is another place that, again, we need to dig in a little bit. We are sitting below the state average and all of those subtests in this particular year. So that's a place to dig in that this year we'll be doing some vertical work at the secondary level and can dig a little bit deeper into what we have in place and where those holes might be of that assessment. I will open it up for questions or comments and the principals can jump in too.
I like to see the comparison between the free and reduced lunch and the IEP kids and see how they're progressing as well as all of our other students.
And those are the only subgroups I pulled out. Our others are too small. If we don't have enough kids in different other subgroups, we'd be looking more kid by kid at that level.
Chart's good.
Okay. Not on one page, Pam.
Read.
I thought the chart was very good. I guess the biggest concern that highlights to me is the middle school math programming here when we got
It stands out.
bubbles here, we got 12 bubbles. And only 2 of them have yellow in them and they're not for the overall. So looks like I think we did some adjustments in math there. Enlighten us, remind us what we're doing.
I will enlighten you on some changes in math at the middle school. So one of the things that we have implemented or are in the process of implementing is adding some instructional time to math at the 5th and 6th grade level. With our work with Annie Carpenter last year and with the administrative team, we really looked at what does universal instruction look like for our kids? And we chose math as the area to kind of dig into beginning last November with the admin team and then with our teachers. And when we looked at the key pieces of a core instruction, our teachers have really dug in on standards work. They're working with Annie on these instructional practices. But one of the keys is the recommendation for allotted time. And for K-6 math, 60 minutes is really the standard of what should be in your core. And our kids have 40 minutes. So when we think about trying to teach all the things that are essential in 2/3 the time, we think that's a key thing that's been missing for us. So we've implemented that additional math class or math section. And the one section the kids kind of do the overview of the lesson, the introduction, and then having that second section of math or that second 40 minutes allows them to do small group time. I've been in and visited. I know Scott and Emily can speak to it too. I've been in to visit the classrooms as the teachers are setting up stations for the kids to work through. They're able to pull small groups or work one-on-one with students to give them more of that a better model for teaching math and more of that instructional time. So I think that's a key piece that has been missing for us that we're trying to adapt to.
Plans for science down the line.
Science. So first step for science is some 5-12 alignment. We've seen quite a bit of turnover in our science department, and we know for a fact we're not very aligned right now. So on our full days of PD this school year, we have vertical time set aside that K-12 is going to tackle literacy. So any of our elementary teachers are really digging in on literacy practices, but 5-12 then will be in their different content areas. So some of that's 5-12 vertical work to be done. And another key piece that elementary has kind of outlined is we really integrate a lot of our science concepts into our literacy practices. So do we have texts that really align that we can use and pull that rich text to build the background knowledge in science to support us when maybe our day is stretched thin. We're trying to get our 60 minutes of math and some intervention, and we're trying to get our 120 minutes of literacy. Where is the time for science? If we can incorporate those things to build the background knowledge with our literacy, then when it's science time, we can do science and those hands-on things. And so that's work that last year the teachers started making those adjustments and saying, here's what we know are our science concepts at elementary level. Here's some key texts that we can use to build up, and that's something we need to continue to do. Thank you. But it's work that needs done. So we're not there yet.
The question I have is, it seems like over the years, I hear every year, I come aboard, I hear literacy, 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 literacy. Have we done that to the point that we've sacrificed our math and science, and now we need to start giving back a little bit of time or something?
I think it's a fair question. Or are we making sure that if we have that time for literacy, we're writing about science, we're reading about science, we're not so siloed in the ways that we teach. And I think our teams have made efforts to do that, but that's not work that's finished. And it probably reflects a little bit in the ways our kids apply their thinking in a test that asks them to apply it. Principals, do you want to add anything to that? Because I know you are leading your teams in that work.
I'd say at the middle level, I'm excited about the changes we made this year. I think they're some of the most substantial changes we've ever made in literacy and in math. Yes, I've been here for 24 years. I think we had reading associates here for the full time, and I think some of what we did was we had associates that just did repeated reading with students that weren't proficient, whether that was what they needed or not. While it may not have been a strategy that hurt them, it may not have been the strategy that they needed for them to be successful. And so we changed that program this year and got rid of our reading associates and hired a reading interventionist. That allows that teacher to use different strategies that they went to school for, that they're educated in, to work with in small groups with the classrooms and small groups outside of the classroom. That person took over our reading lab classes, which allows the reading classes to have an extra section, which gives them smaller sections of students in them. So when they do their group work, smaller sections of group work. So we've really targeted, whether they need fluency, comprehension, phonics, decoding, whatever it might be, instead of just saying everybody gets repeated reading, that's what you get. So I'm excited for the changes that we've made for that. As far as literacy, as far as math, I think that's a difficult one when we were trying to fit that curriculum in, and we really had a eye-opening, even in talking to the teachers, and somehow how that went, the number of units that we didn't actually get to, how are the students going to score well on it on a state test when we didn't teach them? And so because of the amount of time we had allotted to that, we went from 40 minutes to 80 minutes to double our math instruction. I have answered some feedback from some parents that were like, my student has done really well in math, and they really love math, but we think by adding another section, they're going to hate math because we're giving them too much. And so my reply for that has been, we had a lot of students that did well in math. We just only gave them a portion of what they needed to get to. So we need to give them that other 30% that we maybe weren't reaching. And so the math teachers and working with Annie strongly felt that there was so much reteaching going on that they were just weeks and weeks and weeks behind. And so having the instructional time to put into that, to teach them, and then have another period of resources with small group, getting repeated instruction, getting trials. So when they come back to class the next day, they've already had 40 more minutes of it. So they're not spending most of that class period reviewing what they did when they didn't understand it. So those are two substantial changes with literacy and with math that we're hoping to see good results from. So we're hoping that we've directed it so specifically in the areas that the kids that need it. We're excited to have the teachers in those areas. And Annie worked with, I think when we talked at the beginning of the year, she had worked with Ballard, and they kind of jumped through some of those hoops. The way they fixed it was hiring more math teachers. I knew I probably wasn't going to get approval to hire 4 math teachers. And so we made it work in our organization of how we schedule people around what they're teaching, where we're teaching social studies and where we're teaching math, and how much time we put into all of them. So we're hoping to see some good benefit from some of those changes we put in place this year.
Another thing that you'll hear a little bit about as we talk about Excel delivery plan, but another key piece, I think that's a change in our math delivery at the middle school is bringing back more opportunities for algebra in 8th grade for our students. We know that in over the long term, when they get to ACT testing and some of those things in the high school, students who have algebra earlier tend to then have more time to learn more math. And so we also know that it hasn't worked well for our kids if they just skip 8th grade math. If at the end of 7th grade, we say, you go to algebra, there are some key standards in 8th grade that they need as a foundation. And so we worked with Annie to identify the curriculum that we use. Illustrative math has a compacted version that compacts 6th through 8th grade, but over 2 years instead of over 3 years. So that the kids aren't missing or having to skip units, but they're woven together in a way that the kids do 6th grade and part of 7th grade math in 6th grade, and then 7th grade and part of 8th grade math as 7th grader. So they don't skip anything, but it's also a resource that's aligned with our other core resource for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade math, so that kids have multiple opportunities at the end of 5th grade. And we use multiple assessments this year to determine which students to put into that compacted class in 6th grade, but it does align with the 6th grade math curriculum. So if there are some 6th graders that, oh, you know what, at the end of 5th grade, they just hadn't peaked quite yet and shown that they were ready for that, but now they are, we can slide them in, and it's aligned in a way that they don't miss that opportunity. Or if students find they're struggling in that compacted format, they can move back to the traditional 7th grade format and not feel like that things are misaligned. So we're excited for that opportunity for kids that just aligns better for meeting all kids' needs too.
With the math, I know that's one of the areas we always talk about. Do we leave those higher kids out? Getting that pathway back in, not only have we looked to add resources for everybody, but targeted the low and high areas. And we also implemented a pilot group this year for ELA that Darcy Newcomb's teaching, our instructional coach, that we've combined reading and language arts. She's working with the 8th grade teachers and the high school teachers to teach this. We identified, I guess, what I would call students that scored advanced on the Iowa testing. And so that group we will pilot and have them come in. That will be the group that we recommend for or honors English when they come into freshman next year as freshmen. And hopefully they'll be prepared and better ready to jump ahead in their high school courses, because we offered that at that English level as well. So.
Any other questions?
Well, I just wondered if you got much feedback on the social studies change.
No. No, not at this point, just from teachers. We're meeting, we're planning, we've got our teachers in, working through both collaborative teams with social studies and PLC. As we talked about before, when we implemented that change, how much, if we decide we need more, where we're at, we're making sure that we're not having repeat units. Like if we spend a bunch of time in 5th grade and then in 7th grade, we went and taught the same content that we already taught in depth. So we're adjusting some of that, making sure that what's an introduction, where they get more in-depth content knowledge. And we've got some plans in place to determine after we see how it goes next year, if we feel we need to increase that time. There's a couple of things that we're considering to increase the social studies time. If we think we need to increase it for next year based on how this year goes.
Yeah, I just wondered about, aligning 4 grades.
Yeah.
Hoping that they get everything.
Yep, they're still planning close and working with the 7-8 team. So if we didn't teach this, and they need to pick it up, or if they did a little bit, or we need to do more. So there's still, we didn't totally separate them from the teams. They're doing both content areas.
I would just make comment on it too, is, like you said, trends are kind of what they are, and it's hard to, could look at different ways. It is nice to see as you hear about, I guess, that merging of when we go from the lower elementary to the middle school. It's great that we're going to put a focus behind making sure we're kind of all on the same page as that, because as you look, it does appear as we get through the middle school, they make big leaps and bounds ahead, and then they get to high school and we get back up to those yellow highlights. So it is great that we are looking at ways to make sure we don't have maybe that dip so much, because it looks like when they get to middle school, they do a great job of getting them back up to that level.
The transition is.
Transition-wise, if we could kind of dial that transition front end, but I say it's not always doom and gloom, I guess, when you look at some of this, because it does look like we do make some good leaps and bounds to bring them back up on that front too. So
if we can smooth that out a little bit, think where we'll go, right? Exactly. Right. This one is kind of the autopsy report. I mean, especially because we get it back after the kids have left that grade level. It truly is it's the autopsy report on the previous year. And the changes and the things that we have put in place are already in motion before we start to get this data. So it kind of confirms things that maybe we already saw in the works. Sometimes it surprises you here or there, but for the most part, it is that end of the year. Here's where we ended. And by now we're moving on to the next year and our improvement efforts. So most of those you've already heard about. All right. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, on to FFA out of state convention.
Move to approve.
I know, right? Just approve it in perpetuity.
Good evening. I'm Jim Fitzgerald. I'm our agricultural science teacher here at the high school and serve as the FFA advisor. And joining us tonight is Tristan Ward. Tristan's our FFA chapter president this year. We are here just to seek approval since we are traveling out of state for the National FFA Convention on October 25th through 28th in Indianapolis, Indiana. So we included kind of an itinerary and some details. So if you have any questions, we're more than willing to answer those, clarify anything we can.
Is it always in the same place?
It's been in Indianapolis for at least 6 or 7 years. At one time, it went back and forth between Louisville and Indianapolis, but they kind of outgrew what Louisville had for hotels and facilities. So
I will just guarantee
this
it is,
for a long time.
it is a wonderful conference. I've been to it and it is wonderful.
it's one of the premier leadership, youth leadership conferences, I think, in the country. And it's a really great opportunity for our students to see that, experience it. And then also the career expo out there is second to none. If it's an agricultural college career, post-secondary training option in the United States, they are there. So students really get full exposure to so many opportunities after high school.
How many students will you take?
Somewhere between 8 and 10 students is kind of what we look at. That size is pretty nice. Some years we've actually tried to take more, but it's such a large convention. Usually the limiting factor is how many hotel rooms we can get or how many they allot per chapter per state. So we're looking at that 8 to 10 range.
Yeah, I noticed that you said the application, so the kids apply to go.
Yep, so we do have students fill out a short application, and, we try to take a variety of students, so it's not all just seniors or not all just freshmen. That way we're taking kind of a representative sample of students from our school. And that way we can kind of have a diverse group represent us and have them get that experience.
Jim, how many applicants do you usually get for students then?
Usually we get between 10 to 15 students apply to go. So we're able to usually take a majority of them, or some years all of them if we get lucky, so.
To approve.
I will second it. My daughter's done it many times. She learned a lot from it. I think it's a great ceremony, or a great convention and learning experience for kids to get them out of state and recognize what else is out there.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions?
I would just say that I know it says 8 to 9 on here, but I think if the applicants you feel they're an individual that would benefit from attending, I would say I'm okay with going a few more if that's possible, would be my only comment. So I know it gets hard probably in Europe.
No, I appreciate that leniency. A lot of times it just depends on hotel rooms and males versus females and, all those fun little details that we get to work out.
That too. So
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
for coming tonight.
All right, number 2, XL plan.
You mind if I stand?
Nope,
Oh,
go
it's
ahead.
fine. Okay, all right. I am Christina Greenfield. I am the high school Excel teacher, and I first want to thank you for this opportunity to speak with you tonight. I started in 2019, and it has been a goal of mine to speak to the board. And here we are, a COVID and a pandemic later, 2022, and we have this opportunity. So when Jill asked us, the Excel team, to present to the board about our service delivery plan and our important work this last year, I was very excited. So, Mitch, okay. So our Excel team consists of Barg McDougall, who is in charge of Excel K through 6, Jared Doolittle, who spearheads the 7 through 8 Excel program, and then of course I have 9 through 12 up here at the high school. And so, Mitch, do you mind
Do the other one?
presenting it?
Oh,
Sure.
yeah.
So it's just a little bit larger. Thank you. So the service delivery plan 2015 is an extremely important part of an Excel or talented and gifted program because it provides a clear process for several components, which I'll kind of go through quickly tonight. A current clear plan is really, really important for teachers as well. As in this cartoon, it says, your student Clara has tested talented and gifted, but only in metal sculpting. You'll need to start incorporating metal sculpting into your daily lesson plans starting tomorrow. So for teachers to understand exactly what they might need to differentiate and what needs they need to meet in the classroom, that can be confusing unless we have a clear plan and process in place. Even more confusing for students of how will they be identified and how do we get into Excel? So for example, sucking putting up somebody's nose and blowing out the corner of their eye will not get them into gifted programs. And sometimes students come to me and are asking, what is the criteria? How does that happen? Do we wave a magic wand? Do I just need to be nice in class? And so having this very clear plan of how we identify is extremely important as well. Okay, so tonight I'd like to just quickly go through our process. Our suggested revisions based on what the plan used to state, the path ahead, our goals for the future, and then offer just a couple moments of question and answers. So I can get some feedback from you and answer or clarify anything. So our process started all the way back in September, October of last year. And our first thing that we did is we sought our experts. So Dr. Jill James joined us every time that we met. We also had Kyra Wilcox Conley from the AEA, who is a talented and gifted or gifted talented, whichever way you want to say it, consultant for the AEA. And she came in each session and was extremely helpful in guiding us through and helping us revisit some of the scholarship and the research that had been done in that area. Then we consulted our resources, which Iowa code has some very specific and not so specific guidelines for talented and gifted education. Mitch, if you don't mind just clicking on that link, it should take us to another presentation that looks just like this presentation. That's a little confusing. And it goes through.
In this back here? Nope.
No, if you just click on Iowa code.
Oh.
There we go. And then go ahead and go to the next slide, please. All right. So Iowa code requires that we have a program and a plan written out for the following components. For objectives and activities and goals, identification criteria and procedures, professional development for talented and gifted teachers, as well as providing professional development for general ed teachers. The staffing of the program, also how is the program going to be evaluated by not only fellow staff administrators, but also parents and students, as well as a budget, and then making sure that staff is qualified, which talented and gifted is a hard position to fill from what I've heard on the block. And it's exciting to have 3 fully endorsed talented and gifted teachers here at Boone. So that's a wonderful thing. It also defines talented and gifted children. What does that mean in Iowa? And they're pretty specific, saying possessing outstanding abilities and capable of high performance. And then they give us 5 areas, which is on the next slide. So Iowa code actually suggests or allows, I would say allows, identification in these 5 areas, but it leaves it up to each district to determine which area they're going to identify. Have to do at least one. Usually that's overall academic. And programs and goals and objectives need to be established for the following. And there's just one more slide where we have the code. So it talks specifically about the bottom there. I've kind of bolded out what I really want to emphasize is that the talented and gifted program is what needs to be offered beyond the regular scope of the curriculum. And so these are students whose needs are not being met in the regular curriculum, and they need something more supportive, not extra, but maybe more in depth. Okay. And these are other components that the Iowa code outlines: special curriculum and flexible instruction arrangements. Okay, so we really, studied the Iowa code to make sure we were following that, to give that a good look over. And so then, Mitch, we can head back to our original one there. We also consulted this book, which is kind of our manual. So this is a book that is research-based that Kyra Wilcox Conley also uses at Heartland to do a talented and gifted kind of inventory of where the program is and what the strengths are and the needs are. And we also have a set of standards from the National Association of Gifted Children that we consult regularly to make sure that we are following those standards. And so if you're curious about that, you can just type in NAGC standards and you can find the programming standards. So we did a lot of research. We went to our existing service plan, revised, realized that we kind of got caught in the weeds, and Kyra pulled us out by helping us take an inventory of what we are currently doing. And that allowed us to go back and revise and then set goals for next year. And so we can just take a quick look at this. And so what this does is outlines what services and programming are we offering at what age level. And so we are offering acceleration opportunities for K through 8. At all grade levels, we are offering programming specifically in English language arts and math. In addition, we are collaborating with instructors and counselors and administrators at all grade levels. And you can see at the high school level, since we have courses as part of options for students, we have discussions, individual conferences with students and parents about those course offerings, as well as programming options. And we also have college and career readiness programming options like Excel mentorships and seminars and things like that. So that grid was extremely helpful for us to realize like this is what we're doing. And then we are also able to find our areas that need some improvement. Okay, I think we're ready for the next slide. All right, our Excel mission stayed the same. And this is the official mission of our Excel program. Meet the unique and cognitive and effective needs of gifted students, providing varied educational programming for them to reach their full potential. Identification, we did make some minor changes too. So the identification process is really important to make sure that we are capturing students who truly need those services outside the classroom. This is one of my favorite quotes from Albert Einstein, and it reads, "Everybody is a genius. But if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid." So it's really important in the identification process to not only look at test scores, but also to get input from teachers through teacher referrals, parent referrals. We even have student and self referrals available at some of our levels. And so a wide and varied collection of data is important to make sure that we are identifying students who truly need those services beyond the regular curriculum. So in grade 2 is when we first officially identify for Excel. Services are provided before grade 2, but specific identification doesn't happen until the end of grade 2. And it is only done for the general academic area. And we use the following measures to base our decisions on identification. Grade 3 through 8, similar measures, also just overall academic is what we identify for. And then at the high school, we broaden that out to general academic, but also specific academic. So if a student is really strong in math, but maybe not necessarily English language arts, at the high school, we do look at that, largely because we can offer quite a bit of programming specifically for math or specifically for English language arts with the high school course schedule and course offerings. And those are all of the pieces of data that we put on a spreadsheet and look at. So our proposed changes for our service delivery plan is at the elementary and middle school level. We feel like there needs to be some more quantitative measures beyond ISAST. And so COGAT is a screener. It's a test that students can take, and it measures verbal reasoning, quantitative reasoning, and nonverbal reasoning. And so the screeners are kind of a shortened version. Our proposal is to give all students the screener at the end of 2nd grade. And then if we see some scores that start to kind of emerge where there might need to be some more testing or some more investigation, we would give them the full battery, which would be the full test for the COGAT. And that would be the same at the end of at the beginning of 5th grade. And at the end of 6th and 7th grade, we would use an algebra readiness test to help make decisions, as Scott mentioned, about putting students in the compacted 6-7 math and algebra 1. Excel programming, we had quite a few changes that we wanted to make. And one of the big shifts is thinking about talented and gifted, not where we go, but providing services for that student throughout their experience. And so they don't have to go to Mrs. Greenfield's room for an hour a day, but instead we provide those programming for them. So we kind of come back to this. So this is all making us go blind, and I apologize. But these are the areas that we kind of felt like, hey, there's some work to be done here. That maybe some more specific programming specifically for ELA and math would be helpful in those areas. And the exciting thing is now in September, the middle school has done so much work in providing those opportunities in the math options and then the new advanced ELA course. And of course, we as Excel teachers, we don't make those decisions and then we don't spearhead that, but we get to be part of the conversation, which we're really excited about. And so that was a huge step for students who need a little bit more advanced work. We know in the yellow down here that there's some more work to be done with collaborating with teachers and working with PLCs, and also trying to cluster group, which I can kind of explain here in a moment. So these were our proposed changes for program services. In the pre-K through 1 level of just simply providing a role for those gen ed teachers of how to meet students' needs who might be really early readers, who might already show their math abilities at that point. And to also come in and facilitate small groups where they work with students in grades 2 through 4, to provide consistent extension opportunities in all subjects. In 5 through 8, having pathways, especially in math and ELA, clearly defined for students if they want to advance their work, as well as being a coaching and consultative role for general ed teachers. And at the high school level, again, this is not my decision and it's not necessarily my role, but I do like to offer John and Drake all sorts of opinions during the day. And they're so good. They're such good sports. They're smiling. And so one of the goals is to have in every single grade level, in every core subject area, an opportunity for advancement. Now that comes in many different forms. It could be providing an honors course, or it could be providing students within a course an honors by contract, meaning certain students within the class agree to work on those higher order thinking skills or those really high level projects. It could also involve curriculum compacting, where we take up maybe a full year course and compact it into a semester. It also could involve the opportunity to test out, to show competency by credit. So there's all sorts of different ways that we can provide those advanced pathways. It doesn't necessarily have to be a separate course. Okay, and then the path ahead for Excel. So some of our goals for this upcoming year is to increase our professional development time with classroom teachers to really work on that exemplary level of what does a 4 look like, and to help define that and give examples for general ed teachers. And to also work with PLCs more strategically and more carefully. Here at the high school, I have a great situation. They meet in the morning and I just come out in the morning and join them. My focus will be math and science this year. I know that the elementary and middle school levels, the scheduling and the coordinating is a little bit more tricky, but that's a goal for us this year. In addition, we would like to explore cluster grouping, which is where we take a small group of very, very advanced students and we make sure that they end up in the same section of a course. So then an Excel teacher can come in and help collaborate and run small groups. And their time would be used efficiently. Instead of going to 5 different sections, they would go to 1. But there would still be other students in the room of varied levels. So it wouldn't necessarily isolate talented and gifted students, or it wouldn't make a separate section. It would just help it be more efficient for our talented and gifted teachers to come in and collaborate. Some other goals that we have more for kind of the structure of how we are looking at Excel is to start a monthly PLC where the 3 of us meet with Jill, with Pam, and with Kyra again this year. We found every 2 weeks was way too much, so we think about once a month would be really valuable. To continue, so we discovered that the service delivery plan is a living, breathing document, and that it really needs to be updated frequently. So we would like to continue that service delivery plan. End of last year, we talked about revisiting whether or not we want to identify for specific academic areas in the elementary and middle school level. We also talked about rediscussing and revisiting our policy of phasing students out of Excel in elementary and middle school. We also talked about trying to provide other programming options for them. And the last thing that we really want to dive into this year is each Excel student has a personal education plan. We would really like to revamp that and think about how we're going to use those in our program and share those with teachers so it will help them. So all of this is moving towards the hope that no student goes home in this situation. They say, Mr. Wickers called me gifted in front of the whole class. I'm ruined. We don't want it to be a label. We don't want it to be something that a student just earns. Instead, here at Boone Community School District, we want our high ability students to follow Rene Descartes and believe that it is not enough to have a good mind. The main thing is to use it well. Thank you for this time. I know I went over 10 minutes. I apologize. Any questions?
Thank you very much. It's interesting.
Thank you for all you do.
Yeah.
Thank you. We have not heard about this for a couple of years. So it's
Oh, it's been a
good update. Now it says here, I didn't see any specific plan in that we had to,
That is the plan. What you were just presented is the plan.
that, okay, the entire thing
Yeah.
wasn't a one-page thing that
Kind of give you an overview.
summary.
Yeah.
The document is linked in there.
Overview of this.
An overview of everything there.
Oh, okay.
It's really not, it's not as full as
Okay.
my presentation.
That's right. Yeah. Yes.
Okay,
It highlighted, yeah, what changed from,
I found it now.
so yeah, we do have that as an action item, so we can have that officially approved.
We'd entertain a motion or any questions?
I'll move to approve the gift and talented education service.
second.
We have a motion and a second. Other questions? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, number 3, YSS Student Assistant Program Agreement Renewal.
Yeah, so this is one of the many YSS agreements that we have. And this is just yet another one to carry it over for another year. I don't believe we had any other changes to the contract that we had before. So it's exactly the same as the previous year with a change in dates going through June 30th of 23.
Questions?
What, the two new people that we met tonight,
Oh, the therapist and
therapists.
So the mental health therapist, we did take from YSS.
A different program.
She's ours,
But
right?
a different, but she's ours. So they are going to replace her position. They have not replaced it yet. That's not this particular renewal, but one of our other YSS contracts. So yeah, so that is, and then the other individual she's a social worker, but takes that guidance counselor role. And she is coming from Heartland AEA, which is separate from YSS. So those two individuals are in addition to the services that we have with us.
Move to approve the YSS Student Assistance Program Agreement as presented.
motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Other questions? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 4, IJAG Renewal Agreement.
So this also is one that we renew every year. This is with Voc Rehab. IJ with regard to the Voc Rehab services. So again, just we need to renew this every year. So that's our recommendation, is to do that as well.
I'd move to approve the IJAG renewal contract as presented.
So motion, is there a second?
Second.
Any further questions? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 22-23 Certified Lane Advancement.
So you can see in your documents that we had quite a few people who went in lane advancement, which I see as a positive thing since we're an educational institution, that we have so many people advancing their own educational careers. So we recommend approval of those lane changes as a result of their work.
So moved.
Second.
You have a motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 6, tenfold contract for Crossroads Learning Hub.
So this is about our furniture and equipment. Just a recommendation to approve tenfold to help facilitate that process. We did that also with DLR when we did that with our elementary project. So this is just something we'd like to have tenfold take the lead on in helping us get furniture and equipment for our new Crossroads Learning Hub building.
Procure and bid it and everything. So
Yeah.
Move to approve the contract for tenfold to work on the furniture fixtures and equipment for Crossroads Learning Hub.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 7, school committees. for 22-23?
So you have several links for the various committees that we do bring forward to you. So we have those that are in your documents have committed to being a part of those committees, I believe. Maybe the exception might be with regard to SiAC. I don't know. I have not personally talked to Pam about SiAC, but hopefully Pam knows why we would place her on the SiAC committee in addition to Matt for our school improvement committee. But those individuals that are listed under each of those links have committed to being a part of each of those committees.
And we didn't really make any changes other than we formally did the negotiations, right? Is that one of them?
Yeah, and then we do, when SiAC, there is a certain number of people that we rotate in and out so that we have not necessarily the same people in, for forever. We do change out
Like a
for a certain amount of time. So
year term or something like that.
yeah, so those that had their timeline up, we did find other individuals who could take their positions on SiAC. So
Newest member served till 24, 25. So that's
Yeah.
why you can see.
there you go. Thank you.
Remember that one.
That's who you know who's new. Yeah.
Now, so the FIAC and the CTE do not include the new ones that we just.
They do.
They do?
They should.
What was that?
The SiAC and CTE should include all the new people, right?
I did not.
I don't see.
Yeah.
See Jeremy or I on CTE.
Jeremy's
You should be there.
gonna be on that one too.
Well,
Jeremy's on. site.
Jeremy's on site.
Document.
That's the old document.
Well, it has to be new because there's a couple new years on there for people.
No, it does not include me.
Well, we need to get you on there because we had you on our list.
And
Doesn't
I
include
agree
Jeremy.
on-
Oh, yeah, Jeremy's up above it. It says school board member
In the
instead
sky.
of a.
Instead of a person.
Business.
Where is it?
member.
Oh, this one?
Yeah, when you put
You're
that on
there.
there, you can just add her on there. And then this one, I think,
I thought we would just.
SiAC, when we don't have any 20,
And I think the SiAC one, you just need to update Jeremy's name to,
building parents, we only have for 23, 24. We don't have any 24, 25 building parents.
SiAC we should, because we did attain new members. So just a moment, let me look at that one too.
SiAC does have 24, 25.
Yeah, SiAC does.
I don't know if you wanted to update Jeremy on there. Replace.
Jeremy is, we need to update. Jeremy wasn't updated on this because we have Pam and Matt on SiAC, not Jeremy. I will do that right now.
Unless Jeremy wants to be on extra committees.
SiAC's actually a fun one.
Yeah, you get.
Yeah.
So Jeremy will be business rep on CTE and I will. be-
Adding, give it on to CTE.
I will be the board rep.
Jeremy,
Jeremy be the business rep.
Jeremy's business and Pat's the board rep. And then on SiAC, it should be in.
Yep.
Yes, we need to. and
Yeah, but I
don't
need
have
to note it
documents.
just because of the change we made in the meeting.
Yeah, but I don't. Why is this
SiAC
not
needs
letting
to
me
be
do it?
Pam.
SiAC, we should,
Letting me,
we've got the education
I
one.
don't have it at exit.
Community education reps are for 24, 20.
If you have that,
Parent, building parent reps are.
I don't have access right now on this. Mhm. That'd be great.
So we're adding Pam to SiAC.
Pam and Matt are on SiAC.
Only changes.
Mhm. Well, the rest should be there. I think it's just with our board members that was overlooked. Oh, okay. We leave it blank until this meeting? That's right. Who from the board wants to do the materials reconsideration committee? So in other words, if there's materials that a parent may say, hey, we'd like you to review this material. We don't think it's appropriate. We have this committee that goes through that process and we need a board representative for that. So,
A member of the
and a member,
policy states, we must have 3 members of the community.
right.
Hey, Doc. Hey, Doc, don't we usually appoint Jan?
What?
Jan Westrom.
Oh, okay. I thought we
This
needed a board
materials
person
review.
too. No?
Yeah, materials are,
Fine.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, we'd like to appoint Jan Westrom.
Jan Westrom is the person they'd like to appoint. Okay.
Just put it wherever you want.
Okay.
No.
if it's not a board member, I'm sure she'd be willing to serve there.
Your title, your brother's owner. Owner. Title owner.
You need to make a formal motion on that.
I would definitely do a motion that with the revised,
I mean, for Jan specifically.
that one, we need to contact her before we.
Okay.
Pending approval.
Yeah, pending, I mean, we could,
Pending approval.
we need to contact her,
She's done that
Might
one.
be watching and already knows.
yeah.
So the changes I have is add Teben to CTE, Jeremy to business partners,
Mhm.
SiAC, Pam and Matt, and then
Jan Western.
Jan Westrom for materials review, pending approval.
Pending agreement. Mhm.
I will move to approve these committees as modified tonight. And pending confirmation from the appropriate people.
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion with the proper amendments. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and second. Any questions? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we got some first readings of some board policies.
We do. So when you look at the first one with 401.07, the difference, the change that we have in there is to be able to allow for reimbursements of gratuities. So we set the limit at 15% because I think it's unrealistic to expect that we wouldn't reimburse someone who part of service is tipping. So we have that specifically stated because that's what's needed from our auditor's point of view. It does not change the total amount in the day at this point, but it allows for us to reimburse individuals that tip as part of that service, so. Move to approve. And do you want me to go ahead and go through 900 too, and then you can do it all at once?
Yeah.
And then the 900 series, the main differences with our the entire 900 series is we had previously had specific policies with regard to each area in a building and each building. And Iowa Association of School Boards kind of lumps them all together as part of the district, saying, okay, here are the rules that you follow as if you're renting the district facilities. And so I believe in here you can see where we suggest condensing them if you have it. Yeah,
It's rescinding some.
there you go. Mhm. Rescinding some and then just creating a new document so that it is applicable throughout the district without having to look up each and every location.
And this includes the pool, because I could not.
Yes.
Okay.
So the previously, the recommendation is take that away. Yeah, again, like if we're going to be renting facilities, we don't have it, we're specifically renting this or that. Like they will say what they want to rent, but then there's one set of rules to follow and we really don't rent out our pool other than, the one part AAU, I like kind of young swimmers that are part of our school. Like anyway, like they're Boone kids and we don't charge them. So that's not something that we do. So I took that out as part of the policy because that's misleading, I think, to think that you can just as an entity just come and rent. Got it. Thank you. We don't do that. Move and says shall serve.
Yes, you already responded.
Yeah.
Dan agreed to.
Yeah.
be on the material review.
Move to the first reading.
Yeah, exactly.
Second.
Motion to approve the first reading of 401.07 and the 900 series.
So moved.
We have a second.
First, second.
Motion by Pat, second by Pam.
Yep.
Sorry.
All right. Any questions?
The train, it's not your fault.
No, she didn't talk about it.
Favor aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Now we have some second readings.
Mhm. So we have already done the first readings. I don't believe we had any changes after the first reading. So the second reading that's before you is what was before you before. So recommend approval.
I'll move to approve second readings as presented. 1 through 10.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further questions? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I think we're down to superintendent report. No,
Almost.
Sorry.
We're almost there.
Change order greater than 25.
Yeah, we have a change order greater than 25,000, but this is really something that we had originally said we were going to use as an alternate, the gym floor at Crossroads. We, if you recall, we had kind of pulled it out as an alternate. Then we discovered that we were able to find a gym floor that would fit within our budget. So this is a change order that would allow for us to put an actual gym floor in and not leave it as cement. So that's what this change order is about. So it's a change order based on our request to add the gym floor at this time because it met our budget amount.
I'd move to approve the change order as presented.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, now you're up, Julie.
Okay, so you already had an update about our gym project. I would say that if you go by both Crossroads and Ledges, that you'll see that they're both vertical. So that's exciting. Currently both on track. I know for a while we were wondering if Crossroads, there is a part of the building that we were questioning that its arrival time. It is still scheduled for December 1. So hopefully that will remain. They have poured most of the flooring at Ledges Elementary. So again, our goal is to get enclosed so that over the winter months, we're inside and we're all enclosed. I know Autumn had an opportunity to go and do the site visit last time I had a meeting, so I wasn't able to, but
It's so beautiful.
there you go.
So beautiful, potties everywhere.
And they just met recently about furniture. And so that's even more exciting because we're thinking about things to put into the building. So just a reminder to board members that the change orders are listed for our projects. So you can see kind of where we are budget wise with each of the projects to date. The other component that I wanted to share with you, there have been some questions from a community. This is a great time to talk about it. So I had asked Scott to speak to this, but some questions with regard to our Geppinger Awards. So I'm going to let Scott speak to what's happening with Geppinger Awards. There are rumors out there that are not true. So I'm going to let him share what's happening.
We had talked last year with transitioning over to SRG, and I think over the years of the history of the Geppinger Award, it's changed multiple times, depending on what the point. It was similar to valedictorian, where it was like male and female, and it changed to 3.5 GPA cumulative for 7th and 8th grade. So we've had kind of back and forth. We've had years where it was maybe didn't seem as the level of where we were at when you're having 70 or 80 students qualify for something that's supposed to be fairly prestigious, seemed to be watered down. And so as we've talked about that, moving away from our grade point averages with SRG, we're not intending at the middle school level to convert our scale scores back to a percentage. We're just going to leave them at a scale score. So we have a Geppinger committee established to look at that. And our first conversations have talked about having something similar in the process to like National Honor Society, where students apply for it. There's like a citizenship component, a behavioral component, grading component tied to it. So we're working through that right now to determine what would qualify. We want to keep it as a prestigious award, not get rid of it, but we are going to have to change it up since we're not going to do GPAs. I couldn't tell you the number of times it's changed over the years. I know it's at least 4 or 5. And so I think as times change, they've adapted the award to modify it to fit the school's needs. And so rather than get rid of an award that's been around for a long, long time, we want to adapt it to what we're currently doing in education. So that's what we're working towards now. Hopefully we'll have a decision soon. We've asked people to be on the committee, teachers and other people that work at Geppinger recipients for some input into that to the board. Haven't had a ton of people that are super invested one way or another. I think people want to keep it and reflect what it is. And so we're working to try and make it be something meaningful. There's never been a conversation that we're getting rid of it or it's going away. So I don't know. I don't even know why it's a topic of conversation, probably because we moved it to the high school last year. Typically, we've done it at the end of the school year. During COVID, we moved it to the high school and did it at the auditorium, which worked really well. And so we had intended to do that at the beginning of the year for this year's freshman class that's already qualified for it. But we also let parents know when we did that with the construction, we couldn't set a date until we knew construction was complete and the air conditioning was back on and everything was in place for us to use the facility. So as soon as everything's shored up and we've got that set, we are still going to have our assembly for this year's freshmen that achieved it through the end of last year. And then we'll have some adaptations that we'll put in place starting for this year's where they're at. So
Thank you for that clarification. Okay. Thank you. That's all I have for my report.
All right, I think that concludes this portion of the meeting, right?
Yes.